Morning, everyone. I'm Professor Ramesh Ranjan, and I welcome you to this virtual orientation program, where at this hour we've devoted time to interact with industry leaders from across the country. So today we have with us Mr. Shrinivas Chebbi, the President, Power Products International Operations from Schneider ELectric. So Schneider ELectric is a long-standing organization. It's a global leader in energy management. They are neither a producer of energy nor a consumer of energy. It helps the producer and the consumer to effectively manage energy. It's a company which is about 180 years old, born during the Industrial Revolution in the late 19th century, headquartered in France and operating in over 190 countries with more than 200,000 employees worldwide. Their revenue last year was 27.2 billion euros. That translates to about $32 billion. They develop innovative, connected technologies and solutions for safety, reliability, efficiency, and sustainability. They are into energy management solutions, building automation and control, low voltage products and systems, solar power systems, medium voltage distribution and grid management automation, critical power, cooling systems and racks, industrial automation and control and energy management, industrial automation and IT infrastructure management software. Coming to India, they have been around for more than 50 years with a revenue more than $1 billion. They employ around 20,000 plus employees and have around 36 manufacturing plants. And they export around $1 billion of manufacturing products to the rest of the world. They are going to grow significantly with the acquisition of one of the largest companies, which will of course be unraveled in the months to come. Shrinivas Chebbi, a colleague of mine some time back, is a veteran business leader with about 25 plus years of experience in 4 countries, 3 industries, varying from business functions to general enterprise management. He started his career with ABB and Bell before moving into Schneider ELectric in 1998. He's had a very illustrious career with Schneider ELectric, starting off as a regional director for the lower Gulf region in the Middle East, then moved into India as a country general manager, and later on the vice president for India and SAARC region of APC by Schneider ELectric. He was the president of buildings business for Greater India zone consisting of SAARC countries before moving into his current role as the president Power Products International Operations. He's passionate about green technology, IT, energy efficiency, and sustainable development. He's specialized in sales and marketing, business development, joint ventures, technology partnerships, capacity buildings, and turnarounds. When not working, Srini is an artist, very passionate about arts and drama, has acted in a few small films, and one day aspires to become a director. And Srini, we are very privileged to have you here. Thank you for having taken time off your busy schedule, and we look forward to your address to the students. Over to you, Srini.
Thank you very much, Nandan, and very good morning, everybody on the call. It's a great opportunity and my privilege to talk to you. So thank you, Ranjan, for this opportunity as well. So good morning to everyone once again, and then let me just start my presentation a little bit.
Yeah, we can see your screen. Yes.
Excellent. Perfect. So I think it's a great beginning for all of you, I'm sure. I think you all would have had different experiences so far in terms of studying in different schools and colleges, as well as probably, some of you would have worked for a while. And then a very key decision is what you have taken to pursue your postgraduate management program. And I'm sure if you are in the same state as I was in when I finished my graduation and then probably started working, that sometimes you would be wondering, well, is it the right thing I've done? What should I be doing? Which industry would I pursue later on? Is this the right program, etc., etc. But I think that's pretty natural. But I think you are in the right space and time. You are in the right institution, and then you are pursuing the right thing. Now, all depends upon what you do with it, right? At the end of the day, it's the action which matters more than anything else. So I would like to quickly give you a little bit about an overview about the industry where I work right now, and then what are the trends and opportunities and challenges, and then of course the unprecedented black swan event which we have all faced with, this COVID-19, how it has impacted quickly. We'll talk a little bit about that, and then I would like to quickly share some of my top of the mind thoughts about what are those things which I would have preferred to hear, which now I know on hindsight that would have helped or would help me in the next 20-30 years of my career. So I will try to share those things with you quickly. All right, so I think we just quickly go through some of these aspects. Well, energy is a very primary, basic, prime moving industry. You can imagine that the whole civilization, the evolution of mankind, whatever progress you can talk about, whether it's respect to industrialization, mobility, transportation, conveniences, luxury, lifestyle, space technology, healthcare, the prime mover behind all of that is energy. I think the biggest, some of those biggest discoveries which happened in the field of energy transformed the whole world and changed the curve of evolution of the mankind. There are fundamentally two types of energies broadly. I think one is about the primary energy. The second thing is what we call as a secondary or the final energy. So primary energy are all those natural resources. I think these are the energies such as energy forms such as coal, gas, oil, which were all found in the 18th century. I think the coal was the first one to be detected, probably in an industrial way, early 18th century. If you would like to really go back to the real reference of energy, you will find them in the BC era. Even in the Babylonian historical scriptures, you will find that some kind of a bitumen was used to lay roads, because those were pretty advanced civilization. And in India, for example, the first form of secondary energy usage in the form of electrical energy was done in almost at the beginning of the 19th century or late 18th century, something around 1895-98. So that's when the first set of electrical lights were switched on in Kolkata, by the way. I think it's 1898. So some of those power generating plants which were set up were again in the similar time, 1898 and 1902. One was in the Dehradun and another was in the very close to the place where I live in Bangalore, which is on the way from Bangalore to Mysore, called it's a small power station of very low capacity, but then that's what it was. So when you look at those final energy consumption, in fact, in the form of final energy consumption, the oil, coal, and gas, these are what we call them as heat-trapped energy resources. Because every time and any time you try to utilize the energy out of those resources, you eventually create large carbon footprint, and then you also create heat as a byproduct. So these are all called heat trapped energy resources. And in fact, the biggest issue which this world is facing in terms of global warming is largely contributed by the heat trapped energy resources and utilization of those things. And in fact, electricity is another form of energy, which is in fact today at about 29%. It is supposed to be so far the most efficient energy, secondary energy form. And as you all know very well, that the whole world is moving towards electrical energy form of energy for most of the things for their development. Industries are heavily dependent on electrical energy. Mobility, you know that the big revolution that is happening in the EV, all of these things. And when you look at basically the segments which are actually driving the consumption, today still it is industry largely, and buildings and transportation combined together are the biggest segments and the fastest growing end user segments of the final energy consumption sector. Okay. So when you look at basically some of the challenge, I think the energy industry, I mean, I'm talking about basically the entire chain of energy production, energy distribution, and energy consumption. As Ranjan rightly said, Schneider ELectric, the company for which I work, is an energy optimist. We believe that on the energy generation, while you move from fossil fuel to renewables, and energy consumption, which is basically all about the appliances, servers and hot plates and geysers and all of that stuff. In the consumption area, we've already gone quite high, 5-star efficiencies and then even beyond that. And in the generation, our migration from fossil fuel to non-fossil is largely dictated by the time to implement and the cost to implement. So I think the biggest opportunity for us which lies in the distribution. So that's where the space where Schneider ELectric operates. So the challenges are the hydrocarbon mindset. I think you all know about those 7 challenges of the lean, right? The Tim Wood. That's the issue with this one. I think one of the largest challenges that. And second thing is that all the industrial value chain, all the value chain of the energy industry are pretty much disconnected, and they operate in isolation. They are not very much connected. The policies are not connected. The industry, the enterprises are not necessarily connected. I mean, when you look at, the oil is not connected. The oil is different. Coal is different. Probably oil and gas is different. Electricity generation, power generation is different. And not necessarily solar is connected with all these forms. So I think all those renewable and non-renewable energy forms are still struggling with this disconnected silo approach, either driven by the policy or it is the way in which the whole evolution of the enterprises and industries are happening. But nevertheless, there are some companies which are trying to integrate them and try to bring basically one unique approach. And another large challenge is about the low energy efficiency infrastructure. You all know about it. I think the energy efficiency was not an issue until sometime that we were faced with the eventual danger of we losing the only home we have called Earth because of the global warming. And that has started to expose all the fault lines. And the largest fault line we have in this whole energy value chain is the low energy efficiency infrastructure. So I think from a generation to the consumption, if you look at the whole thing, transmission, distribution, and then distribution, not until just to the building, but inside the building, etc. I think the opportunity is very large. And when you look at basically the situation we have today in terms of emissions and global warming, it's a very, very alarming situation. When you look at basically the biggest challenge of the equation which we need to be solving is in the coming 20-25 years, the energy consumption, the demand for the energy, electrical energy is going to go up by twice. And if we want to contain the global warming and limit the temperature rise from what it is today within 1.5 degrees in the next 25 years, then you need to increase your energy efficiency by twice, which means that you need to be efficient by 4 times because you need to produce twice more and you need to cut down carbon footprint by twice. So overall 4 times is the efficiency which we need to garner. Now, when you look at basically the challenge which is there is that if we do not do anything, we will increase the temperature of the Earth by 4.1 to 4.8 degrees centigrade. I don't think anything will survive. In the next 30 years, by 2050, if we are able to contain the temperature rise to 1.5 degrees from what it is now, then you will not be able to make much further impact. Otherwise, if you look at what will happen is you will have the sea levels rising by 2100 if you continue, by about 1.5 feet if you increase it by 1.5 degrees. If you increase it by 2 degrees, it will be increasing by 1.8 feet. About a billion people will be impacted. Coral reefs will vanish. The Arctic, every year there is a lot of ice in the Arctic. I think we will see, if you increase even by 1.5 degrees, which is what the whole world is fighting for. Even if you increase by 1.5 degrees, you will have at least once in a century complete Arctic without ice. But if you increase it by 2 degrees, then once in a decade you will see that complete loss of Arctic ice. So you can imagine all of that Arctic ice, which is basically going to be flowing in the form of water into the sea levels rising up, floods, and then the heat waves is the second thing. The heat waves will impact to about a billion people with 1.5 degrees, and it's about 2.7 billion. So I think the situation is extremely challenging. We have increased the global temperature by about 1% from 1850 to 1950 actually, and from 1950 onwards I think we've increased by another 1%, and now we are rapidly raising the temperature. So this is where we stand. Well, I don't want to start only with a very scary picture, but that's what it is. I'm sure that as adults and people who are going to shoulder a lot of big responsibility, it's important for all of you to know how critical is the energy challenge, and then how you can be the energy optimist, because at the end of the day, if we are not able to keep the only home we have, which is called planet Earth, safe and secure, if not better than the way in which we got it, at least the same condition, so that not just our generation, but the next generation as well can continue, it's going to be a catastrophe for the mankind. So the future of energy, I think there are big trends that are dramatically shaping up the energy industry. What we call the famous 3D plus E, the digitalization, decarbonization, decentralization are driving, the rampant increase of the connected devices. I think we're going to have about 50 billion already connected devices right now, are presenting tremendous opportunity for digitalization. Digitalization helps you to bring deep insights into the consumption which you have, generation which you are making, and it helps you to also create those micro grids which will harness the renewable energy resources and can potentially convert what is predominantly a consumer to a prosumer, which means you all can be both producer and consumer of the energy. So that's the digitalization can help you to decarbonization. So decarbonization is all about that. And then digitalization and decarbonization with the decentralization, which is converting a consumer into a prosumer, and with the connected grids, etc., I think we will be able to create a much more electric world, and without sacrificing probably the development, we will be able to keep the planet sustainable. The technology trends only help in here, the cloud, the analytics, mobility, sensing, IoT, etc. I think these technologies are enablers. They empower the people who like to drive the 3D and then E more with the new developments and advanced technologies that are available in the form of sensors, in the form of connected devices, in the form of analytic platforms, and in the new way of energy consumption, such as the mobility technologies, etc., etc. So these are the technology trends. And few years back, several countries signed the Paris Convention, and then they pledged to contain the temperature rise to 1.5 degrees delta by 2020. In fact, the aspiration and ambition is that the world should contain by 2040 itself as much as possible. And it's not going to be easy, because it's a very collaborative work. Every country has to work with each other. It's not just within your country. There's a lot of work that is happening, and I'm sure you are exposed to all the news which comes around that, how each country is progressing or developing different views and things like that. So when you see basically how is it going to happen, I think the renewables will form a significant portion of the energy by 2050. So from a mere 15% of the generation contribution right now, they are likely to be more than even 34%. The ambition is to drive up to 50%, but I think 34% is a target. And similarly, gas will reduce, obviously, but not so much, because still there are a few things which dependent on gas in the form of energy. Oil will dramatically go down. I'm sure that the COVID has exposed these things very clearly right now with respect to the oil consumption. And coal, which is also a primary source of energy for power generation, is going to dramatically go down, which is in fact, coal has the largest carbon footprint in the form of energy generation, and oil has the largest carbon footprint in the form of energy consumption right now, because of the transportation consumption, etc. So electricity is going to be the fastest growing one. So unless and until you create an energy efficient way of distributing electrical energy, you will not be able to meet the demand of the electrical energy, which is going to be just doubling in the coming 20, 30 years. So the appliances today are already operating at about 97, 98. Transformer, look at transformer. Transformers are already reaching 99%, etc. So there is not much room available for increasing in the consumption area. But I think in the distribution area, when you look at basically the buildings, in the buildings alone, 82% of the overall energy efficiency potential lies in the buildings. Close to about 1/3 of that, is available in the industries as well. So there's a huge opportunity. Let's quickly look at basically what did this whole COVID thing impacted. First of all, completely unprecedented. It is indeed once in a century, or probably once in a lifetime, kind of a black swan event that strike us. It is rewriting the rules of everything in the world. The way in which we work, live, socialize, build, develop, everything is changing. It also has exposed some of the things which we were not embracing wholeheartedly, apparently, everybody. But it has exposed the strength and how we can really make it work. For example, online engagements. I think when you look at basically some of the enterprises, cost and expenditure splits, the transportation, or rather the travel, is still the significant amount of area, cost, expenditure area. I think this situation has taught us basically how you can have very efficient online customer engagement. I can tell you myself, I'm enjoying, frankly speaking, the online engagement with my customers. It is so efficient. I know that I also crave once in a while about that personal touch and feel, but I know that probably I had to make 10 times the personal touch and feel to a client in a year. I can do that once, and then the rest of the 9 times, I think I can really save the carbon footprint, because air travel is the biggest carbon footprint generator from a transportation perspective. Online customer engagements are great. And it's also creating the new normal in the form of the remote working. I mean, people living in the metros, you all know the amount of time you used to spend in moving from your living space to a working space, and not necessarily very efficient. That is 3 to 4 hours. At the same time, it has taught us how to be very professional, efficient, and effective in the remote working, leveraging a lot of tools that are available today. In fact, a lot of companies and entrepreneurs have developed the tools to make you much more efficient while you work from remote. A lot of companies are in fact saying that you can work from anywhere. It's not just work from home, it's remote working. And then there are pods which people create where you can connect with the people physically in case you need to do once in a while. The big role of the government to create stimulus and to create the infrastructure which basically helps in all of that, including renewable, including infrastructure for remote working, because that calls for a lot of network infrastructure. And at the same time, the supply chain disruptions which the COVID caused has exposed also some of the drawbacks of the globalization. I think we have benefited from the globalization so far, but I think the fallouts of the globalization are exposed during the COVID-19 situation, which means there's going to be a lot more local manufacturing. And I'm sure the Indian Honorable Prime Minister's clarion call for Atmanirbharta, which is about self-dependency and self-sufficiency, is actually part of that. So, well, then it's good to see quickly that how will COVID impact? I think while COVID impacted this way, the whole world can be very largely split into two buckets. If you look at the historical similar impacts, the downturns or catastrophes, if you may call, or the big shifts in the global economy caused by whatever reason, you will always very clearly see that there are about 13-14% of the companies that in fact emerge out of the negative situation much more stronger, better, and much well placed for escalated development in the post-impact era compared to a lot of other companies. And in fact, you will also see that the statistics proves that close to about half of all the companies that operate really fall into the quadrant where you will see significant shrinkage of your sales volumes, at the same time dramatic drop in your margin. So then the question is that then what do those 14% of the companies do right? I think if to just understand this framework helps quickly. They try to find simply advantage in the adversity. I think when just like this time when the pandemic hit us, I think those companies fundamentally resolve and revisit their vision quickly and then adjust the levers. What do they do is during the resolve phase, it is about the business continuity. It is about fundamentally ensuring that you stay afloat and then keep your people, customers, assets, and the responses safe and then secure. And then you build resilience. While you build resilience, it's all about relooking at your business models, relooking at the way in which the world is changing. For example, e-commerce is a big shift, which is now a lot of companies who were shy of exploiting this business model are jumping this bandwagon in a big way. And then the return, it's all about how quickly and in a very solid way you emerge out of the situation. And then rather than going a gradual recovery, how would you recover in an accelerated format so that you not only reach the level of your previous situations prior to the negative impact of the, let's say in this case, pandemic, but you in fact ride the wave which is caused by the new normal or the AB normal. You try to take the advantage of the new rules of the game, and then you in fact create a big gap between the rest of your competition, and then you go ahead. So you fundamentally reimagine your business models, reimagine your organization, reimagine your structures, and then you reform, you change as and when required. And there's always this significant shift you will see in the whole stable world when it happens, that there are a small number of companies which dramatically come out of it in a winning way. There's a great opportunity to innovate in the energy industry. When you look at it fundamentally, the right side picture is very clear. The top one tells you basically that what needs to be done in terms of achieving the 2-degree pathway by 2050, and in fact the 1.5-degree pathway by 2050. And then where will you go with the new technologies and the new policies and the new trends as it is right now? The way in which we are going, it will take us to a 22% reduction in the heat-trapped natural resources consumption. Our dependency on natural gas, oil, coal, etc. Thanks to the addition of the renewables, for example, India has pledged that we will have 30% of all our generation coming from the renewables. So when you do all of that, your fossil fuel consumption is going to go down by 22%. But the fossil fuel consumption has to go down by 45% if you need to reach the 2-degree pathway. The 2-degree pathway is critical to reach by 2050 in order to save this planet, in order to avoid all those things, the floods, the heat waves, and the melting Arctic ices and all of that stuff. And the ambition and aspiration what we have, which is to reach 1.5 degrees by 2040 or 2050 even, which calls for 72% in the reduction of the fossil fuel consumption, which means there is tremendous scope for innovation. This is the beautiful canvas for people who would like to really make a big change. I think you can think yourself as in you are in the 18th or 19th century with respect to the scope for innovation, during which time, a lot of things were invented, the light bulb, the electric locomotive, and this, the IC engines and all this stuff is exactly we're in the same situation. It's a once in a lifetime for a generation opportunity right now in the energy industry. Tremendous scope for innovation, and never ever the mankind had such an opportunity to save the planet. It was always to help the man to develop and lead a better quality of life. It is about saving the planet. It's a significant opportunity for each one of us, each one of you. In fact, you are younger, you have a longer opportunity, and then you can create the next generation business models. So this is a great opportunity. Energy industry is the industry which is going to dramatically alter the way in which this world will evolve further. Now, having said that, the threshold at which you are in terms of your MBA course, there are a few things which I would like to share with you, which I believe that these are my learnings and my takeaways of having worked in this industry, not necessarily energy industry, in my professional life. The purest form of learning version of a human is the child. I'm sure we all have seen, we all see daily, but today when you find time, today, tomorrow, spend an hour with a child and try to see basically how it comes about its own daily things in life. The way in which it learns, the way in which it has a curiosity, its ability to smile and cry, its ability to be pure and authentic. If you translate all of that, those are all the expectations of any organizations from the leadership. Being authentic, EQs and then IQs and intelligence, etc. All of them we are fortunately, as human beings, we are born with abundance of all of that in ourselves. It is just that the way in which our education systems, etc., are there, we try to basically suppress our natural, God-gifted instincts and abilities and try to evolve in certain direction, conditioning ourselves and suppress the natural abilities. My message to you would be that keep the child in you alive. Enjoy those simple things. If you want to remain creative, keep your eyes, ears, heart, mind, soul open, just like a child, and you really, innovation, etc., will become a piece of cake for you. You look at the way in which the kids innovate. I'm sure we all have gone through it. When you are playing your bat is broken in a match. Have you not fixed in a way you never knew how it would be, but then you played and then you finished the match? I don't think we do that today. We try to hire a bunch of professionals asking them to do it. As child, as kids, we have gone through all of that stuff. The second one is that build and nurture healthy networks. Networks. It is basically the communities and the networks that will shape the new world. The people with whom you are going to be interacting in the classroom, in your campuses, in the college, with your professors, with your class fellows, with your classmates, with your hostel mates, etc. You never know. The guy who is sitting next to you or the lady who is sitting right to you would become the CEO of the largest corporation in the world. So the networks, it's not just about knowing the famous and the powerful people. It is about your ability to create the power of the networks in order to create the bigger good, the higher impact on the universe. So you need to be helping yourself. You need to be helping people to help yourself. The networks basically do that. They help each other, and then eventually they help themselves as well. That's the power of the network. So you build your network right while you are there, and then when I see that 150, 200 people in a PGP course, there are 150, 200 leaders that are going to emerge out of this team. And then each one of you would be either running a company, in the public policy making, in the running government, in running global corporations, or in running big, NGOs, which are going to dramatically change the way in which the society will evolve. So build a network so that you all can bring positive impact to this world. The key takeaway for me is that discover your higher purpose. This is a very personal thing. Every living animal and human being is one of them. They all do what is required to be done for keeping themselves alive and take care of their family. Some of them take care of their communities as well. In fact, if you want to see the strong role of leadership, you should go into the animal world, the aviary world. You will see there are plenty of examples how they demonstrate the natural leadership. I think the higher purpose, each one of us have a higher purpose. We just need to discover what is our higher purpose. The higher purpose acts as the North Star. It is a guiding force. It is, in fact, the anchor to the life. It will keep you grounded while it lets you fly. Each one of us need to know our higher purpose. A higher purpose of an organization, in fact, helps the organization to come together and then go steadfastly in that direction. Similarly, individually, you need to have your higher purpose. Higher purpose should not be as, I would say, uninspiring for yourselves as finding a great job or becoming the managing director of a company or earning a 5-digit salary. I don't think those can be, because you will very soon find that they do not inspire anymore, because they are all like a milestone. The moment you reach them, what will you do next? I think each one of us need to find our highest purpose, but I think I would really encourage you that during these 2 years you spend, you'll be exposed to a lot of education experience, and this time, make sure that you find your higher purpose. Life is not all about success. Life is not all about green. Life is not all about confetti and applause. Life is all about a good and healthy mix of success and failures. Embrace failures as much as you embrace success. Learn how to live each moment. Learn to learn lessons from each moment. Do not shrink when you come across a failure, and do not bloat beyond proportion when you hit success. Be stable, embrace both, smile, help people, learn and move on. One thing which is important, you are all very lucky. And in fact, there are a lot of people who would be envying you because they don't have the same opportunity to study what you are studying for various reasons. Never forget the people who don't have access. There are a lot of great people out there who are not studying. You can find a lot of people who would become one day Indra Nooyi or Liao Kuka or Mr. Modi, or they are all there out there right now. As a leader, as a good human being, if you are able to help anybody who do not simply have the access and probably the means to follow their dreams and discover their full potential, help them. Help them. You will see soon that the amount of satisfaction you will get out of that and the kind of energy you will generate for yourself and the way in which you propel yourself towards whatever your higher purpose is humongous. So I think this is the one which summarizes as we stand today, both in the society as in the energy world. It's a great opportunity for all of us. It's a great opportunity for all of you, especially as you go through this next coming 2 years of your journey, to discover, to build networks, to learn, and to prepare yourself to go out with a completely fresh set of ideas and approaches and learning abilities while keeping the child in you alive, with the resolve to help the people who do not have the access, people who do not have the means to achieve their full potential, and then solve the problem. Believe you me, that the kind of satisfaction you will get through that is far higher and much more impactful, and it is a soul nourishing than anything else. All right, that's what I wanted to share with you today. Thank you. And Ranjan, I would hand it over back to you for any observations for the team and questions if they have.
Sure. So Srini, thank you so much for having so succinctly put across the threat that the world is facing as a result of the global warming, and at the same time also showing us that there is an opportunity to resolve this complex issue, and that the students also have an opportunity to contribute in saving this mother earth, right? And you very nicely said some bit of advice to these students to keep the child in you alive. I think it's a great advice so that people can continuously innovate. The importance of networking, I think it's very rightly said, Srini, that network is one of the greatest asset that we have as we progress in life in order to be successful. You rightly said that all of us need to have a purpose, right? What is a purpose? What's our not pole, right? So we need to have a direction to our, whether it's career, whether it is social life, whether it's personal life, we need to have a purpose in whatever we do. And you also exhorted us to embrace success and failures, right? Success is easy to digest, but for many of us, failure is very difficult to digest. And I think great leaders, great successful people, people like you, are the ones who have been able to digest failures and learn and move on, as you rightly said. And at the same time, you also said that we also need to be considerate to the less privileged people. All of us students are very privileged to be part of the society, to be having the opportunity of pursuing an MBA from a leading B school. But there are many others out there who are less privileged. And I think we have to do something for the people who are less privileged. And I think you ended up with a great quote from Einstein. And I should really say that very nicely put, Srini. And it was indeed a great opportunity for us to know about the energy sector, how to manage energy, what are the threats being faced, and what are the opportunities lying ahead of us. And students, I can tell you that it's a great opportunity for you all to pursue a career in the energy business. And I'm sure that you can network with Srini on LinkedIn at a later point of time and engage into meaningful conversations. I have a host of questions, Srini, coming from the students. I'll try and see if we can prioritize them. One of them is asking, what is your take on EIA 2020? I don't know what is EIA. Forget it. I don't know. The second question is, aren't e-waste one of the rising hazards in the world? What is Schneider Electric doing to counter it?
Good question. Very good question. In fact, you know, the circular economy is basically trying to address things like the e-waste, and Schneider Electric is committed to be a carbon neutral company in the coming 20 years, and we are working constantly towards significantly reducing our carbon footprint by altering the way in which we lead our professional journey in the company, from production of the goods to the way in which we work together, etc. And the e-waste, what we produce, it is all fully recirculated, and in fact, each of the units have a very clearly articulated policy to do that. I mean, if you you go and have a look at some of the global manufacturing setup what we have in Bangalore itself, you will see that there is a zero waste which is let out from the e-waste is completely 100% recirculated, and you know, there's a very clear-cut policy and the governance around that. So Schneider Electric is absolutely committed for a complete e-waste recirculation as well as being carbon neutral in the coming years.
Usually, the question which was asked you before was about the environmental impact assessment draft of 2020.
Well, I think you know, it is time to redefine what is progress. I would not go in too deep into the policy or the document itself, but I think what is progress? What is development? We need to redefine. Would you like to build a skyscraper which is not going to see the light in the coming 10 years because at the same time you're increasing the consumption and carbon footprint and global warming? What's the point in building a skyscraper? So redefining the definition of redefining what is progress and what is development is what I think is needed.
So it ties back to what you said. What's the purpose? What is your North Star, right?
Right.
Fine. So Shri, the next question is, will this COVID phase act as a catalyst in bridging the energy gap in remote regions of India that has no access to energy?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think Schneider Electric also has been doing a lot in the area of access to energy. We have a big CSR program in that area, but in fact, that's much before even COVID. But I think the COVID is also decongesting and redistributing the population. Uh, the reverse migration, if you may like, is happening slowly or probably accelerated during the COVID, and surely. If the remote working is going to be here, then you can really work from anywhere, which means that you need to be going back to your towns and then even villages. Why not? Uh, and in fact, if you look at basically some of the emerging or recovering segments of the market, they're all rural. Rural India, the rural markets have recovered a lot faster than the urban markets. So it is a awakening for everybody that we need to be building a lot more resilient infrastructure in the rural area because the markets are there, the people are there, and the resiliency is there. If we are able to enable that as a country, we would be doing a lot better by reducing our old dependence on the urban clusters, which are busting at the seam. And then, so I think the rural development will get a new impetus because of the COVID.
Just in between, on a lighter note, one of the question is, how did you become a film enthusiast, right? How did you take your interest into acting, and how do you find time making small movies and working in a hectic corporate life?
I think as an individual as well as an Indian, I think the visual media is the most impactful media, right? I mean, I'm sure you know about the science behind that, etc. As an Indian, I think the impact we all have of movies on our lives and the role of the movies that play. As a child, as a kid, I think that was my dream world. I used to forget everything and then, imagine myself doing whatever I was doing in that world when I entered. I would skip in my college also. I would skip my breakfast, lunch, or the canteen money, and then go and watch movies. So I think I've been a enthusiast. I was doing a bit of a stage acting, etc. before, but as you know, I come from a middle class background, and then I was also had those same compulsions to do your engineering, get those marks, and then go ahead and work in a company, etc. So I've gone through that as well. So somehow I had the opportunity to rediscover back my passion and pursue it, and worked with some great directors. And in fact, so I came back to acting. I was lucky to, you will find time. You will find time. If you decide, you will find time for everything. From Mahatma Gandhi and Nelson Mandela, the prime ministers, presidents, and great leaders of the world, everybody has the same. This is the only great leveler in the world. Everybody has the same amount of time in a day, only 24 hours. So I think it's all about how we prioritize and what we choose. So I try to basically do the same thing. My directors and my co-stars also help me a lot. We work on weekends, and then weekends can be very invigorating when you work from morning 6 to night 11 o'clock. Very fulfilling. You learn a lot of different things. So I had the opportunity to work with some people from Hollywood, some people from some great directors from Iran, as well as in India, Hindi, Kannada, etc. So it's a great learning for me. I learn a lot while I'm still a small child. In this small steps, but it's a great opportunity. Yes, and you can find time to do it.
So Shri, there's a lot of talk about this Paris Agreement, and of course we've entered into an unseeming controversy with President Trump of America almost threatening to pull out of the Paris Agreement. So what's your take on it? Do you think the global leaders are committed to the Paris Agreement and bringing down the global warming, or what's your take on that? What's your...
I think the COVID, which is not yet that catastrophic, if I may say, has brought to the center stage the need for the countries to unite. Somebody has to send that hydrochloroquine, somebody has to send you the serum, somebody has to send the plasma, somebody has to send oxygen, those
Ventilators.
equipment, ventilators, and somebody has to send the PPEs. There's no one country which can make all of that. It is every country has to come together, and then, in fact, it's not Armageddon yet, right? You see, while this has really shaken us up, at the same time we are able to deal with it. It's a very, very black swan event. That's the right word, but we're able to deal with it. While the global warming is not going to be that sudden, it's going to be gradual, but then we have reached a stage where we have lost a lot of opportunity to recess at our own luxury and time. Now, whatever has to be done with a great sense of urgency, as if your house is on fire. You do not sit and make strategies when your house is on fire, right? You'll find anything and everything that douses the fire, and anybody and everybody who will help you to douse the fire.
Right.
Anything and everything you do to get your loved ones out of the house which has got the fire. Exactly where the situation is. So I think while I do not comment about the governments and their postures and positions, but I think eventually I am an optimist. Schneider ELectric is an energy optimist. I am personally an optimist. I believe that the mankind is here to survive and sustain, and it's just not the mankind. You see, we have the ownership and responsibility as a much higher evolved for animal in this world to make sure that the rest of the living things in the world also sustain. So we need to really, that's the point. I think we will have to revisit all those things which we drafted, and then look at basically what we are, etc. I believe firmly that this world is united in that sense to save the world and save the life on the earth. So expect good things. Be positive.
Good one, Srini. I think we're all optimists, but for the politicians. Now, the next question is, Srini, India has embarked on a very ambitious project of being e-vehicles by 2030. Now, do you think it's a rhetoric or is it realistic? And do you think India can really move forward in that direction?
Yes, slogans and catchphrases and these things, hashtags really mobilize energy. They help you to build a big picture, and then they act probably also as a north star. But what is important is execution, right? I think leadership is not only about strategy, or rather probably more about the execution, not so much about strategy. So I think those declarations, etc., are great. Policies are great. I think that the real task in front of all of us, and including the government, is about execution. And the resolve is there. I think from what we see, the direction is there. The resolve is there. And then the other ingredients which are required to do in a democratic setup, they are all there. It is all about execution. It's something. Execution is a collective activity and collective effort. It's not just the government. I think each and every one of us, as an individual, electric vehicle policy. Do you wait for electric scooter to become half the price of the petrol scooter to buy it, or it is 20, 30, 40% more than petrol scooter, but you would like to buy it because that's the investment you would like to make to save your planet Earth? Those are the kind of things which each one of us need to discuss. Yes, there is always these curves, right? Cost versus performance, and then all these things will play in their own way. But do we wait for that? What is the cost? What are you saving by saving a few capex rupees individually as well? I think it's a collective effort and collective task. What we need is a little bit more education and a little bit more awareness and a lot of visibility of this problem and the consequences, and a lot of sharing of the success and ideas, and a lot of celebration of those little progress which we make. If we are able to do all of that, I think we will move towards it.
So it goes back to that famous adage, right? ask not what the government did to you, but what you did to the government, right? So
Right.
it's our way of contributing to the planet Earth, right? So
Agreed.
actually, the next question is: there's a lot of talk about smart cities, right? Now, what, and even in India, we're talking about some 50 smart cities the government has ambitiously planned. But what is it for a common man? What is it for me? What can I benefit from these smart cities? Because I really don't see anything benefiting as a common man. So, what do you think as a common man will benefit me as a result of smart cities?
Good question, Ranjan, again. Smart city, there are as many definitions, at least there are as many states and countries and even metros, right? So smart city, somebody says having smart traffic management is a smart city. Somebody says having smart communication is a smart city. Having smart civic services is a smart city. I think it is some of these, one of these, or all of these is smart city. Smart city is basically a system of systems. A system is basically a network of connected things and people which helps it to uh, do whatever it has to do in a very efficient and sustainable way with the least impact on the environment and on the planet in a simple way. Now, all of your technological mumbo jumbo comes in this IoT, cloud, analytics, platforms, uh, all of them come here. So smart city is a system of systems. Now, the smart payment gateways, the UIDs are all smart city elements. Uh, I don't think we have forgotten the days when we had to go and stand in the queue to pay the electricity bill on the to the distribution company's window, right? Rain, sun, shine, winter, you have to go and stand there. There's no other way. So I think the surely but definitely slowly but surely, I think we have moved towards a smart city. Of course, the government has a big ambition of smart city creation, and it's going to benefit everyone. I think as citizens and citizen charters, we have a big responsibility. You can create your own smart city in your own condominium or in your apartment complex. When you look at basically the cost you have 30-35% of the cost you spend on the apartment complex maintenance is on the energy. Where does this energy come from? How are you using your rooftop? Are you generating solar energy to at least consume? This is a smart way of doing it. I think smart city is a common word, but the smart city consists of smart individual, smart homes, smart buildings, smart apartment complexes, smart colonies, smart communities. That becomes smart city. Smart city doesn't exist without any of this. So from a smart individual to a smart city, that's the kind of a value stream which we should visualize.
Great, Srini. There's a lot more, but then I think due to paucity of time, we don't want to eat into your time, and of course, we also got other things to move on. So thank you so much, Srini, for having taken your time off from your busy schedule, for having come forward to share your knowledge, your wisdom, and also giving some very great suggestions to the students as to how they should look for in their career. And it was really a pleasure talking to you. And once again, thank you so much. And I wish you all the very best in your career with Schneider Electric. Thank you, Srini.
Thank you very much, Ranjan, and it's a great opportunity to interact with your team as well as you and your colleagues again. So I wish everybody all the best, and take care of yourself during this time, and stay safe, and keep smiling. Thank you. Have
Thank
a
you very
great
much,
day.
Srini. Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye. End meeting for all.